wobbly camera. Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is the 31st of December, New Year's Eve, and I am filming in digs in Beaulieu in the New Forest. So production value is going to be a little bit different in this video. Hope you enjoy it. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about if getting a normal job at this point in 2020 / into 2021 or before or after is giving up on working in theatre and being in this industry. I was planning on doing this video for like a couple of days now. I've been thinking about it, and then our show got cancelled. We were meant to be going till the 3rd of January, and because the New Forest is now in Tier 4 like the rest of Hampshire, we had to close early, and yesterday was our last day of shows. We're planning on filming it though, so that'll be exciting for the next couple of days. But that whole experience just kind of made this video even more pertinent, because I think it's safe to say that at the moment there is no stability or security in theatre. That's because of a lot of things. I do think that, you know, when you have an airborne disease, gathering is not safe. So as soon as COVID came over here, of course, it was like live performance has to close, theatre, dance, music, obviously. But I don't think that's the only reason, not to get too political, but also lack of clarity of guidance, lack of funding. Although to be honest, I think the lack of guidance is more so than the funding, because even people who are trying to be entrepreneurial are getting shot in the foot. So, you know, it's not stable. And also, this is our work, you know, being in theatre or music or any of the live performance arts is not a hobby for us. It's work that puts food in our bellies and clothes on our backs. And it's not stable at the moment at all. And, you know, in order to mount things, because of the lack of instability, a lot of the stuff is either not well paid or paid at all. And the shows that are able to, you know, get together the funding to pay their actors something. I know there are tours and things that are trying to get the go-ahead. I don't know how. You know, there have been shows that were remounted on the West End recently before London went into Tier 4. Even those shows, they're going to be looking for people who are bankable. And I don't just mean stunt casting, celebrity casting or things like that. They're going to be looking for people who they know are solid, who are known in the industry, who have worked in those stages even more than they already did. You know, the glass ceiling of the West End has always been like, we know you can do a West End auditorium, so you're more likely to get cast for another West End gig. I think that's going to be even more so, and that is not shade or me being petty. I just think that's a fact, and if I was a producer, we're probably doing the same thing. Like, it's the way it is. But for those of us who aren't in that sphere of theatre, it makes things harder, you know. And even with those jobs, even if you are, you know, lucky enough to get cast in those things because, you know, producers trust you to be able to do the job, it's still not guaranteed, because one decision from government and the next day your show is shut, you know. I don't think for quite a while we're going to be able to look at theatre gigs with any stability of even 6 months for longer shows that are planning to do year-long tours at the moment. Like, probably even less, to be honest, but like 6 months ahead of time, I don't think you can guarantee that you'll still be in the same job because of how rapidly things are changing. Maybe that will change with the vaccine, but it's also relying on people wanting to take the vaccine, and that's a whole other video. So yeah, and you know, there are a lot of people, myself included, who can't afford to just wait around and twiddle our thumbs. We've got bills to pay. There are some people who are lucky enough to have jobs that haven't been too affected and are still relatively flexible. friends of mine who have teaching gigs, for example, which is great. But there are a lot of people who relied on supplementing their acting income on jobs that have also been affected by the pandemic. I worked as an usher. That's not happening at the moment. People working in restaurants, people working in bars. And then you have the people who are also vulnerable. There are actors working in this industry who are in the vulnerable groups, actors who are older, actors and actresses that are in the demographic for long COVID, which is a phenomenon and a thing that has been documented in a lot of people. People who live with vulnerable people who need to shield. People who have dependents who depend on them because they're dependents, that's the whole point. Who can't just take a job in a supermarket because they need to protect themselves or protect others in their household. So those people may now be in the situation, or may have already got themselves into a situation. Are already in the situation and made this decision a long time ago, earlier this year, where they have to take jobs that aren't as flexible, have to take jobs that, aren't used to people being like, oh, I need this time off for a thing, and the thing being an audition, who are used to people taking a month and a half or 2 months off for a short gig and then coming straight back. That lack of flexibility, I know, is really scary. I'm meant to be starting a job in 4 days. Oh my God, I start in 4 days. And I'm having anxiety dreams about it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really scared. And even though intellectually I know what I'm about to tell you guys, I feel like I'm giving up, even though I know I'm not. I'm worried that I'm going to end up with A Christmas Carol in the Rain having been my last ever live performance of anything, or performance of anything. And I imagine I'm not alone in that. So if you are in a similar I don't even know if I'm going to be able to edit this, so apologies, this is not my usual production value, but if you are in a similar situation and you're scared that you might never perform again, and you're scared about being in a new, non-flexible work environment, or just in a work environment and you're just slowly thinking that this is going to be your forever, it isn't necessarily. I can't promise you that, of course, you'll go straight back into the West End, baby, or whatever. But it doesn't necessarily mean the end. I think any producer who sees a gap in a CV from late 2019 to whenever this ends and is like, oh, that's awkward, is an idiot. I don't think any producer is going to be thinking that way. Having a gap in your CV, first of all, even before this, if you could, because I've had friends who've had big gaps on their CV and they've talked to me about this, if you can justify what you did in that time, I think people are very willing to accept it. I took time out to have a family, or I just needed a break, so I tried some other things. Most legitimate producers and casting directors and everyone would not have a problem with that anyway. This pandemic gap, I think, is perfectly justified. So don't worry about the gap that may occur. And I think, what I'm planning to do is just doing what I can to stay in it. If your new job that you've got at the moment to survive, because survival's important, you can't perform if you can't survive. But if your survival pandemic job is giving you enough disposable income, take online classes, find play reading groups, start your own play reading group, just read plays by yourself. If you are so inclined and you have an idea that you want to put out there, see if you can adapt it for an online medium and put it online, put it on YouTube, stream it on Twitch. If you're not that way inclined, even just practicing self-taping in your room by yourself, or just reading plays by yourself, staying in touch with your theatre friends and colleagues, touching base, making sure that you still feel in it in some way, I think is really, really important. And I can't remember where I saw it. It was years ago. I can't remember the original poster, but I remember seeing this post about someone learning the fact that you can always leave, which is the thing I'm holding on to. You can always leave. Whatever job you've got, there'll be a notice period. Find out what the notice period is, but you can always leave. Whether that's because it's making you miserable, in which case, you can find solutions, you can problem solve, you can get out of that situation and find something that isn't going to crush your soul. And also, when you feel, theatre is picking back up, you can always be like, okay, let's save up as a cushion maybe, and then give my notice and see if I can give it another try, And for those of you who have already made the decision that this is the end of your theatrical career, because I imagine there are some people who are like that. Also, I forgot to mention, I understand that's very easy, previous comments, I understand that's very easy from a performer's perspective. It's hard to make work when you're a lighting designer and there are no shows, for example. But I do think just staying in the industry as much as you can, in terms of staying in touch with your friends in the industry, talking to them, and not feeling isolated and alone, especially if you're in a new job that has no theatrical people in it at all, which I imagine will be my experience of my new job. But there we go. I live in a theatre house, it's fine. But yes, going back to people who feel like this is it for them when it comes to their theatrical career, I cannot talk, I'm sorry, who are feeling like they will not be able to get back into the industry and they've made their peace with it. They can't deal with the stress and the anxiety and the uncertainty, the amount of effort that they would go through to find a new job that they would be happy doesn't, they wouldn't want to sink in all of that work and then have to go back into theatre on basically the bottom rung again. To those people, I'd just like to say your feelings are valid. The time that you spent in this industry was not wasted. Hopefully you got to make some work that you're really, really proud of, I hope. Hopefully you got to meet and work with some really great people. And I think almost certainly you will have been part of a show, a production, an event that really changed someone's life, even if it's in like the smallest way, whether it's being part of a child's first experience of live performance and live theatre, whether it was just providing someone with a little bit of escapism for a few hours and that really helped galvanise them and inspire them, whether it was just making something that brought people joy. Those things are small, but they're not insignificant, and you were a part of that throughout your career in theatre, whether that was a long career or a short career. And I think hopefully that is something that you can be really proud of as a part of your life, and that's something that you can hold on to and keep with you. And none of that is diminished by the fact that you are now taking the decision to move on from theatre. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you found this video helpful or comforting in some way. I don't really know how to end this now, and I have no idea if I'm going to be able to edit this, but yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. Would love to have you on the channel. Stay tuned for more theatre content from a UK perspective, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye friends!